The massive ship appeared without warning above Earth. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, stretching for miles across the darkness of space. The vessel hung there like a metal mountain, blocking out the stars with its dark hull. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the ESS Defiance, staring at the alien craft through the viewing screen. His crew worked quietly around him, their faces tight with worry. Nobody had expected this. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. They had sent out 3 small exploration ships to nearby star systems. Now something had come to find them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Amy Ross from the communications station. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. The being on the screen was tall and reptilian, with scales that gleamed like silver metal. Its eyes were cold and dark like chips of black ice. When it spoke, its voice was smooth but carried an undertone of menace. "I am Ambassador Vextar of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the creature said in perfect English. "Your species has developed space travel and thus falls under our authority. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally to the Empire." Morrison stepped forward, his jaw set. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. By whose authority do you make this demand?" The alien's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "By the authority of 3,000 conquered worlds. Your planet will provide tribute, resources, and workers to the Empire. Resistance is futile. We have destroyed civilizations far older and more advanced than yours." "And if we refuse?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then your world burns," Vextar replied simply. "Your cities will be reduced to ash. Your people will become slaves on distant worlds. Your civilization will be forgotten. This has been the fate of every species that defied the Empire." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Morrison turned to his tactical officer. "Get me President Hamilton on secure channel. Emergency priority." Within minutes, President Lisa Hamilton's face appeared on a smaller screen. Behind her, Morrison could see the emergency session of the Global Defense Council already in progress. Her expression was grim but determined. "Admiral, we saw the transmission," she said. "What's our military assessment?" General Paul Carter leaned into view. His weathered face showed years of military experience. "Their ship is massive, Mr. President. Our sensors show energy signatures we've never seen before. Their shields appear to be some kind of energy field that could deflect our weapons." Dr. Helen Brooks, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, joined the conversation. "I've been analyzing their ship's design. The technology is definitely more advanced than ours. But there are things that don't make sense. The ship seems designed more for intimidation than actual combat." "Explain," Hamilton said. "It's huge, but most of that size appears to be for show. The actual weapon systems are concentrated in specific areas. And the way they approached us, broadcasting on all frequencies, arriving in our most populated orbital zone. They want to be seen. They want us to be afraid." Captain Steve Williams, who had been quiet until now, spoke up from his position at the tactical station. "Mr. President, with respect, I think we're missing something important here." "Go ahead, Captain," Hamilton said. Williams looked around the bridge before continuing. "This ambassador, this whole ultimatum. It's not about our military strength or our technology. They're following a script. They've done this before, probably thousands of times. They show up, make demands, and species surrender out of fear." Morrison nodded slowly. "The captain has a point. Their whole approach assumes we'll react like every other species they've encountered. But we're not like other species," Williams continued. "Humans have been fighting since we learned to walk upright. We've fought each other. We've fought nature. We've fought against impossible odds. The idea of just giving up because someone threatens us goes against everything we are." General Carter frowned. "Captain, their technology is clearly superior. A direct confrontation would be suicide." "Maybe," Williams admitted. "But surrender guarantees slavery or death. At least fighting gives us a chance." President Hamilton was quiet for a long moment, considering the options. Around her, the other council members waited. Finally, she spoke. "Dr. Brooks, how long would we need to prepare our defenses? If we mobilize everything, call back our deep space patrols, and activate all reserve units, we could have our entire fleet ready in 60 hours. General Carter, what are our total military assets?" 63 combat vessels of various sizes, Mr. President. 22 heavy cruisers, 31 destroyers, and 10 patrol craft. plus our orbital defense platforms around Earth and Luna. Hamilton turned to Morrison. Admiral, give me your honest assessment. Can we fight them? Morrison looked at the alien ship on his screen, then back at his president. Mr. President, I won't lie to you. We'll probably lose. Their ship alone outguns our entire fleet. But if we surrender, we lose everything anyway. Our freedom, our culture, our future. At least if we fight, we go down as humans instead of slaves. The silence stretched for several seconds. Then Hamilton's expression hardened with resolve. Send a message to all Earth Defense Force units. Full mobilization, code red. All leave is canceled, all ships return to Earth immediately. Admiral Morrison, you have operational command of all military forces. Yes, Mr. President. And Admiral, when that 72-hour deadline arrives, I want you to deliver a message to this Ambassador Vextar. What message, Mr. President? Hamilton's voice was steady and clear. Tell him that Earth declines their offer. Tell him that humanity stands free. As the preparations began, word of the alien ultimatum spread across Earth. But instead of panic, something unexpected happened. Recruitment offices were flooded with volunteers. Shipyards worked around the clock to prepare vessels for combat. Scientists and engineers pooled their knowledge to find weaknesses in alien technology. The aliens had given humanity 72 hours to surrender. Instead, humanity spent those hours preparing for war. They had faced extinction before and survived. They had fought against overwhelming odds and won. This time would be no different. As Admiral Morrison watched his ships take position around Earth, he felt a grim satisfaction. The Zephyrian Empire expected another easy conquest. They were about to learn that humans had never been easy prey. The 72 hours passed in a blur of activity. Earth's orbital space filled with warships as the defense fleet assembled. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, watching as the deadline approached. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces set with determination. At exactly the appointed time, Ambassador Vextar's image appeared on the main screen. The reptilian alien looked confident, almost bored, as if this was just another routine conquest. Your time is up, humans, Vextar announced. Prepare to receive our boarding parties for the formal surrender ceremony. Morrison stepped forward, his voice carrying across both ships. This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have considered your offer and we decline. Earth stands free. For the first time since his arrival, the alien ambassador looked surprised. His black eyes widened and his scaled head tilted as if he had not heard correctly. You cannot be serious, Vextar said slowly. You are a primitive species. Your weapons are crude. Your ships are toys compared to our technology. Surrender now and some of your people may be allowed to live as servants. The answer is still no, Morrison replied firmly. Around the alien ship, 60 human vessels moved into attack formation. Captain Steve Williams commanded the heavy cruiser ESS Thunder. Captain Linda Parker led a squadron of destroyers, including her own ship, ESS Retribution. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Davis piloted the stealth frigate ESS Shadow, using its experimental cloaking system to gather intelligence on the alien vessel. The Zephyrian ship was indeed massive and heavily armed. Its energy shields glowed with a blue light that seemed to bend space around the hull. Weapon ports along its sides could unleash devastating firepower, but as Dr. Brooks had observed, the ship seemed designed more for intimidation than maneuverability. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, he broadcast on the fleet frequency. Execute attack pattern Alpha. Remember, speed and unpredictability are our advantages. Hit hard, move fast, and make them work for every shot. The human fleet scattered in all directions, approaching the alien ship from multiple angles. This was not how space battles were supposed to work according to traditional military doctrine. But humanity had learned to adapt their tactics to their limitations. Captain Parker's destroyers struck first, launching a barrage of missiles at the alien ship's port side. The Zephyrian shields absorbed the impact, but the attack served its purpose. It drew the aliens' attention and forced them to reveal their defensive capabilities. The alien ship's response was immediate and terrifying. Beams of pure energy lanced out, striking 2 human destroyers. The ESS Ranger exploded instantly, its hull vaporized by the alien weapon. The ESS Falcon limped away, half its systems destroyed. But while the aliens focused on Parker's squadron, Captain Williams brought his heavy cruisers in from the opposite side. The ESS Thunder and ESS Lightning opened fire with everything they had. their railguns sending massive projectiles at incredible speed toward the alien vessel. The shields held, but they flickered slightly under the impact. For the first time, the massive alien ship actually moved, adjusting its position to better distribute the energy across its defensive systems. "Did you see that?" Williams called out over the communications channel. "Their shields have limits. We can overload them if we concentrate our fire." Major Katie Stone led the fighter squadrons in hit-and-run attacks that confused the alien targeting systems. Her pilots used tactics borrowed from ancient Earth military history, swarming around the larger ship like angry insects. The Zephyrian weapons, designed to fight other large vessels, had trouble tracking the small, fast-moving fighters. Lieutenant Commander Davis, invisible in his stealth frigate, moved close to the alien ship to scan for weaknesses. His sensors detected something unexpected. The massive vessel had blind spots, areas where its own bulk prevented its weapons from targeting attackers. "Admiral, this is Shadow," Davis reported. "I've found dead zones in their weapon coverage. Transmitting coordinates now." Morrison studied the tactical display as the data came in. The alien ship was powerful, but it was designed to fight enemies who would attack directly ship to ship. Human tactics developed through centuries of fighting each other were apparently unknown to the Zephyrians. "All ships, new attack pattern," Morrison ordered. "Use the blind spots. Continuous rotation, keep moving, never give them a stationary target." The battle raged for hours. The human fleet lost 12 ships, but they achieved something unprecedented. They were actually damaging a Zephyrian vessel. The alien shields were weakening under the constant, unpredictable assault. Captain Julia Stone, commanding the destroyer ESS Victory, made the breakthrough. Using information from Davis's reconnaissance, she led her ship into one of the blind spots and unleashed everything she had at point-blank range. Her railguns, firing continuously, finally overwhelmed a section of the alien shields. The projectiles struck the hull directly, punching holes in the Zephyrian armor. It was the first time in galactic history that a Zephyrian ship had taken hull damage from an enemy attack. Ambassador Vextar's confident expression had long since disappeared. On his bridge, alien crew members worked frantically to compensate for the damage. Warning lights flashed and alien voices called out reports in their harsh language. "Impossible," Vextar muttered, staring at the tactical displays that showed human ships darting around his vessel like predators surrounding wounded prey. "This is not how primitive species behave. They should have surrendered by now." The human attack continued with relentless pressure. Captain Parker's remaining destroyers coordinated with Williams' heavy cruisers to create overlapping fields of fire. Stone's fighters prevented the alien ship from rotating to bring its heaviest weapons to bear. Finally, after 18 hours of continuous combat, the impossible happened. The massive Zephyrian ship began to retreat, pulling back from Earth's orbital space. "All ships cease fire," Morrison ordered as the alien vessel moved beyond weapons range. "Let them go." Captain Williams appeared on the communications screen, his face streaked with sweat and smoke. "Admiral, why are we letting them escape?" "We had them on the run." "Because, Captain, we've already won something more valuable than destroying one ship," Morrison replied. "We've proven that the Zephyrian Empire can be fought and hurt. Word of this battle will spread across the galaxy." On the main screen, Ambassador Vexitar's image flickered back to life. The alien scales had lost their shine and his black eyes burned with rage and humiliation. "You have won nothing, humans," he snarled. "The Empire will return with 1,000 ships. Your world will burn for this insult." "Maybe," Morrison said calmly, "but today Earth stands free, and tomorrow other worlds might remember that freedom is worth fighting for." The transmission ended as the alien ship disappeared into hyperspace. Around Earth, the battered human fleet regrouped, counting their losses and tending to their wounded. They had lost friends and ships, but they had achieved the impossible. News of the battle spread across Earth within hours. Humanity had faced their first interstellar threat and refused to surrender. They had fought against superior technology and emerged victorious, not through superior firepower, but through courage, creativity, and sheer stubborn determination. Admiral Morrison knew this was only the beginning. The Zephyrian Empire would return, probably with overwhelming force. But something had changed in the galaxy. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians had been forced to retreat. Other worlds under their rule would hear about this day. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, and humanity had shown that even the mightiest empire could bleed. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and Earth looked like a different world. The orbital space around the planet bristled with new defense platforms. Asteroid mining operations had been converted into military bases. Shipyards on Luna and Mars worked day and night, producing new vessels for the Earth Defense Fleet. Admiral Morrison stood in the command center of his new flagship, the ESS Thunderbolt. Through the viewing ports he could see the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Over 200 ships now bore the Earth Defense insignia, triple the number they had possessed during the first encounter. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting hyperspace signatures," reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Ford from the tactical station. "Multiple contacts bearing 37 Mark II. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. They had all known this day would come. "How many ships, Commander?" Ford's face went pale as she studied her displays. "Sir, I'm reading over 500 contacts. It's the largest fleet ever detected on our sensors." General Paul Carter, now serving as Morrison's chief tactical advisor, whistled low. "They're not taking any chances this time." The massive Zephyrian fleet materialized in Earth's outer system like a swarm of metal wasps. At their head flew a ship even larger than Ambassador Vextar's vessel. This one was clearly a military command vessel, bristling with weapons and armor. "Incoming transmission," Ford announced. The face that appeared on the main screen was different from Vextar's. This alien was broader, with darker scales and scars across its reptilian features. When it spoke, its voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "I am General Thexvar of the Imperial Fleet," the alien announced. "Your pathetic resistance 6 months ago was an amusing distraction. Now you face the true might of the Empire. Surrender immediately or watch your world die." Morrison stepped forward. Around him, his bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment every day since the first battle. "This is Admiral Morrison. Earth's answer remains the same. We will not surrender." General Thexvar's scarred face twisted in anger. "Then you will serve as an example to the galaxy. Attack pattern Omega. Destroy everything." The Zephyrian fleet advanced in perfect formation, a wall of metal and energy that stretched across space. But as they approached Earth's defensive perimeter, they encountered something unexpected. The first surprise came from the asteroid belt. What had appeared to be normal mining operations suddenly revealed themselves as hidden weapons platforms. Massive railguns built into hollowed-out asteroids opened fire on the approaching fleet. Captain Steve Williams, now commanding the heavy cruiser ESS Hammer, coordinated the initial defense. "All asteroid batteries concentrate fire on their lead elements. Make them pay for every mile." The Zephyrian shields absorbed most of the damage, but the sheer volume of fire forced them to slow their advance. More importantly, it revealed that humans had been busy during the past 6 months. Captain Linda Parker, commanding the new destroyer ESS Vengeance, led her squadron in the first counterattack. "Remember the tactics from the first battle," she broadcast to her ships. "Speed, unpredictability, and concentrated fire. Make them work for every shot." But this time, the Zephyrians were prepared for human tactics. Their formation split into smaller groups, supporting each other with overlapping fields of fire. When human ships tried to exploit blind spots, they found other Zephyrian vessels waiting for them. The battle quickly became a grinding slugfest. Human ships darted between the larger alien vessels, inflicting damage but taking heavy losses in return. The ESS Thunder exploded under concentrated fire from 3 Zephyrian cruisers. The ESS Lightning's bridge was destroyed, leaving the ship drifting helplessly. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Davis, still piloting the stealth frigate ESS Shadow, moved through the battle like a ghost. His ship's cloaking system had been improved with captured Zephyrian technology, making him nearly invisible to alien sensors. "Admiral, this is Shadow," Davis reported. "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the enemy command ship. They're preparing to fire some kind of superweapon." Morrison studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian command ship hung back from the main battle, its weapons charging for what appeared to be a planet-killing shot. "Colonel Tony Wells, are the orbital defense platforms ready?" Morrison asked. Wells, commanding Earth's fixed defenses, responded immediately. "All platforms armed and ready, Admiral. But I don't think they'll stop whatever that thing is charging up." That was when the unexpected happened. New hyperspace signatures appeared on the edge of the system, and ships began materializing that belonged to neither Earth nor the Zephyrian Empire. The first to arrive were the Klaxons, an insectoid species from the Rigel system. Their ships were sleek and fast, built for hit-and-run tactics. Behind them came the aquatic Delphians, their vessels designed for deep space travel. Finally, the crystalline Vortans arrived, their ships glittering like jewels in the starlight. "Incoming transmission from the lead Klaxon vessel," Ford announced. The face that appeared was distinctly non-human, with compound eyes and mandible-like features. When it spoke, the words came through a translation device. "Admiral Morrison, I am Commander Hextra of the Klaxon Liberation Fleet. We have heard of your resistance to the Empire. We come to fight alongside you." Morrison felt a surge of hope. "Commander, we welcome your assistance. But I must warn you, the Zephyrians have overwhelming numbers." "Numbers mean nothing when fighting for freedom," the Klaxon replied. "We have been slaves too long. Today, we reclaim our dignity." The arrival of the alien allies changed the entire dynamic of the battle. The Klaxon ships swarmed the Zephyrian formation, their speed and agility creating chaos in the Empire's carefully planned attack. The Delphian vessels, adapted for operating in the crushing depths of their ocean world, proved surprisingly resilient to Zephyrian weapons. The Vortan ships, with their crystalline hulls, reflected and dispersed energy weapons in spectacular displays of light. General Thexavar's confident expression had become one of rage and disbelief. "Impossible. These species accepted Imperial rule centuries ago. They cannot rebel now." But they had rebelled, inspired by humanity's example 6 months earlier. Word of Earth's resistance had spread through the underground networks that connected oppressed worlds across the galaxy. For the first time, conquered species had seen proof that the Empire could be fought and hurt. Captain Julie Carter, daughter of General Carter, commanded the destroyer ESS Freedom in a daring assault on one of the Zephyrian heavy cruisers. Working with a squadron of Klaxon fighters, she managed to penetrate the alien ship's defenses and deliver a killing blow to its reactor. The explosion lit up space for thousands of miles, and the shockwave sent nearby ships tumbling. More importantly, it proved that Zephyrian ships could be destroyed when faced with coordinated attacks from multiple species. Lieutenant Ben Hayes, piloting an experimental fighter equipped with captured alien technology, found his opportunity when the Zephyrian command ship finally fired its superweapon. The massive energy beam lanced toward Earth. But Hayes managed to get his small craft into the weapon's path. His ship's experimental shields, designed using a combination of human engineering and alien technology, actually deflected the beam. The energy that should have devastated Earth's surface instead scattered harmlessly into space. Hayes's ship was destroyed in the process, but his sacrifice had saved billions of lives and given the combined fleet the opening they needed. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel," Morrison ordered. "This is our chance." The combined fleet of humans, Klaxons, Delphians, and Vortans converged on General Thexavar's flagship. Hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously, overwhelming the ship's defenses in a spectacular display of coordinated firepower. General Thexavar's last transmission was filled with disbelief. "This cannot be happening. The Empire has ruled for 1,000 years. Primitive species do not defeat us." His ship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. Around the system, the remaining Zephyrian vessels, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. Morrison watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace, taking news of their defeat back to the Empire. The victory had cost them dearly. Over half the human fleet was destroyed or damaged. But they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, the Zephyrian Empire had been decisively defeated by a coalition of the species they had conquered. The age of unchallenged imperial rule was ending, and a new era of freedom was beginning. "Admiral," Commander Ford reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from several Zephyrian outposts in nearby systems. Word of the battle is spreading faster than their retreat." Morrison nodded, understanding the significance. The Empire's power had always been based on the assumption that resistance was futile. Today, that assumption had been shattered forever. The victory at Earth had created something the galaxy had never seen before: hope. Within weeks of the battle, reports poured in from across the Empire of Worlds declaring independence. Species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found the courage to fight back. Admiral Morrison, now promoted to Supreme Commander of the Free Worlds Alliance, stood in the command center of Freedom's Gate, the massive space station built at the edge of human space. Representatives from dozens of species worked alongside human officers, coordinating the growing rebellion. "Commander, we have reports from the Arcturus sector," announced Captain Steve Williams, now serving as Morrison's chief of operations. "The Gornans have successfully liberated 3 mining worlds. They're requesting military advisors." Morrison studied the tactical display that showed rebellions spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. Red markers indicated worlds in open revolt. Yellow showed systems where resistance movements were active, and green marked the few remaining loyal Imperial worlds. "What's our status on the Kepler mission?" Morrison asked. Commander Lisa Ford, now leading Special Operations, stepped forward. "Captain Williams's task force is ready to deploy. The Gornans have provided detailed intelligence on Imperial defenses. The mission to Kepler 442b had become symbolic of the new alliance. The mining world was home to the Gornans, a peaceful species that had been enslaved by the Empire for over 200 years. Their liberation would demonstrate that the Free Worlds Alliance could protect smaller species from Imperial oppression." Captain Williams reviewed his mission briefing one final time. His task force consisted of human destroyers, Klaxon fighters, and Delphian support vessels. The mix of species and technologies had become the trademark of Alliance operations. "Remember," Williams addressed his mixed crew, "the Gornans are civilians, not soldiers. Our job is to break the Imperial garrison quickly and with minimal damage to their cities." The task force jumped to hyperspace, leaving Freedom's Gate to join the dozens of other liberation missions spreading across the galaxy. Each success brought new allies to the Alliance and further weakened the Empire's hold on its conquered territories. On the fortress world of Nexus Prime, Emperor Krathmos received increasingly desperate reports from his commanders. The reptilian ruler had watched his 1,000-year empire crumble in a matter of months. What had started as a simple conquest of a primitive world had become the largest rebellion in galactic history. "Your Majesty," General Vorthak reported, his voice strained with exhaustion, "we've lost contact with another 17 systems. The rebellions are spreading faster than we can respond to them." Emperor Krathmos slammed his clawed fist on the command table. "How is this possible? We rule 3,000 worlds. Our fleet is the largest in the galaxy." "The problem is coordination, Your Majesty," another general explained carefully. "These humans have introduced tactics we've never encountered. They strike quickly, liberate a world, and move on before we can respond. By the time our forces arrive, the world is already fortified and defended by Alliance ships." Dr. Helen Brooks, working in her laboratory on Freedom's Gate, had made a discovery that would change the course of the war. While studying captured Zephyrian technology, she had found something unexpected. The Empire's entire command structure depended on a single quantum communication network. "Admiral," she reported to Morrison, "I found their weakness. The Empire uses quantum entanglement to maintain instant communication across their territory. If we could disrupt this network, their forces would lose coordination." Morrison studied her findings carefully. "What would it take to disrupt something like that?" "The network has a central hub," Brooks explained. "It's located on a fortress world called Terminus Gate. If we could reach it and plant a quantum disruptor, the entire Imperial communication system would collapse." President Lisa Hamilton, attending the briefing via holographic projection from Earth, leaned forward with interest. "What kind of defenses are we looking at?" Colonel Tony Wells, now serving as Alliance Military Intelligence Chief, brought up detailed scans of the target. "Terminus Gate is the most heavily defended world in the Empire. It's surrounded by defense platforms, minefields, and has a permanent garrison of over 100 Imperial ships. It would require our entire fleet," Morrison said slowly. "Everything we have, human and alien alike. And even then, success wouldn't be guaranteed." Commander Hextra of the Klaxons, participating via quantum link from his flagship, spoke through his translator. "The risk is acceptable. My people have been slaves for 3 centuries. We will take any chance for true freedom." Similar sentiments came from the other Alliance species. The Delphians, Vortans, and dozens of other races that had joined the rebellion all agreed. The mission was worth the risk. Captain Linda Parker, now commanding the battlecruiser ESS Retribution, volunteered to lead the assault force. "Sir, my ship has the most experience fighting Imperial vessels. We should spearhead the attack." Morrison made the decision that would determine the fate of the galaxy. "All right, people. We're going to hit Terminus Gate with everything we have. This is our chance to end Imperial rule once and for all. The preparation for Operation Severed Chain took months. Every Alliance ship was retrofitted with the best technology available. Human tactical systems were combined with Klaxon speed modifications, Delphian defensive improvements, and Vorton energy weapons. The fleet that assembled at the jump point was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Over 2,000 ships from 40 different species, all united in their desire for freedom. The diversity that the Empire had tried to crush had become the Alliance's greatest strength. Captain Julius Stone, commanding the heavy cruiser ESS Liberty, looked out at the assembled fleet with amazement. "Sir, I've never seen anything like this." Ships from races that had never met before the rebellion, all working together. Morrison nodded, feeling the weight of command. So many lives depended on the success of this mission. Not just the crews of the Alliance ships, but billions of beings across the galaxy who were counting on them to break the chains of Imperial rule. "All ships, this is Supreme Commander Morrison," he broadcast to the entire fleet. "Today we strike at the heart of an empire that has oppressed the galaxy for 1,000 years. We fight not for conquest, but for the simple right of all species to determine their own destiny." The response that came back was not in any single language. Human voices mixed with klaxon clicks, Delphian sonar calls, and Vorton harmonic resonances. But the meaning was universal. They were ready to fight for freedom. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of every oppressed world in the galaxy. Behind them, rebellion continued to spread as more species joined the Alliance. Ahead lay the most heavily defended world in Imperial space, and the weapon that could end the war. Captain Ryan Davis, still piloting his stealth ship ESS Shadow, had been assigned a crucial mission. While the main fleet engaged the Imperial defenses, he would slip through the chaos and deliver Dr. Brooks and her quantum disruptor to the communication hub. "No pressure," he muttered to himself as the fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace. Just the fate of the galaxy depending on one small ship getting through the biggest battle in history. Dr. Brooks, checking her equipment one final time, looked remarkably calm for someone about to attempt the most dangerous scientific mission ever undertaken. "Captain Davis, the disruptor is ready. Once we reach the communication array, I'll need exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds to plant and activate it." "You'll have it, Doc," Davis replied with more confidence than he felt. One way or another. As the fleet prepared to emerge at Terminus Gate, Morrison knew they were about to face the Empire's full military might. But they had something the Empire had never possessed: the unbreakable will of free beings fighting for their right to exist. The time for subtle resistance was over. This would be the battle that decided whether the galaxy would remain in chains or finally break free. The Alliance fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Terminus Gate system, and what they saw took their breath away. The fortress world was surrounded by defensive installations that stretched for millions of miles in every direction. Massive battle stations floated in perfect geometric patterns, their weapons trained on the hyperspace jump points. Supreme Commander Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship ESS Thunderbolt, watching the tactical display update with enemy positions. The Imperial fleet defending Terminus Gate was enormous. Over 800 vessels arranged in carefully planned defensive formations. "Sir, we're being hailed," reported Commander Lisa Ford from the communication station. The face that appeared on the main screen was familiar to everyone in the Alliance. Emperor Krathmos himself commanded the defense of his most important world. The reptilian ruler's scales had lost their shine, and his black eyes burned with desperate fury. "So the rabble finally comes to die," the Emperor snarled. "You think your collection of slaves and primitives can challenge the heart of the Empire? I will personally oversee your destruction." Morrison stepped forward, his voice carrying across both fleets. "Your empire is finished, Krathmos. Half your worlds have already declared independence. Today we finish what you started when you threatened Earth." "Impossible," the Emperor raged. "The Empire is eternal. We have ruled for 1,000 years and will rule for 1,000 more." "Your time is over," Morrison replied simply. "All ships, execute the attack plan." The Alliance fleet split into multiple groups, each with a specific mission. Captain Steve Williams led the heavy assault group straight at the main Imperial formation. Captain Linda Parker commanded the fast attack squadrons that would strike the orbital defense platforms. Commander Hextra coordinated the alien fighter wings that would provide cover for the assault. But the most important mission fell to Captain Ryan Davis and his stealth ship ESS Shadow. While the main battle raged, he had to slip through the chaos and deliver Dr. Helen Brooks to the quantum communication hub deep within the fortress. The battle began with a thunderous exchange of fire that lit up space for light years in every direction. Alliance ships, outnumbered but not outfought, used every trick they had learned in months of combat against Imperial forces. Captain Julia Stone, commanding the heavy cruiser ESS Liberty, led her squadron directly into the teeth of the Imperial defense. Her ship's shields flared under enemy fire, but she pressed on, knowing that every Imperial ship focused on her was one less threatening the main assault. The diversity of the Alliance fleet created tactical challenges the Empire had never faced. Klaxon ships darted between the larger vessels like angry wasps, their speed making them nearly impossible to target. Delphian vessels designed for the crushing pressures of ocean depths absorbed punishment that would have destroyed any other ship. Vortan crystalline hulls reflected and scattered energy weapons in brilliant displays of refracted light. Emperor Krathmos watched from his command ship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion, as his carefully planned defenses began to crumble under the Alliance assault. This cannot be happening. Our weapons are superior. Our tactics are proven. Your Majesty, one of his generals reported nervously. Their tactics are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to adapt to our responses in real time. That adaptation was the result of months of experience fighting Imperial forces. Every Alliance captain had learned to think creatively, to use their ship's unique capabilities in ways that confused and overwhelmed enemy targeting systems. Captain Williams, commanding the battlecruiser ESS Hammer, coordinated with Klaxon fighter squadrons to break through the outer defensive ring. All right, people, remember what we learned at Earth. Speed, unpredictability, and concentrated fire. Make them work for every shot. While the main battle raged, Captain Davis maneuvered his stealth ship through the chaos. The ESS Shadow's cloaking system, improved with captured Imperial technology, kept them invisible to enemy sensors. But Davis had to be careful. One stray shot could disable their cloak and expose them to the entire Imperial fleet. How are we doing back there, Doc? Davis called to Dr. Brooks, who was preparing her quantum disruptor in the ship's rear compartment. The device is ready, Captain, Brooks replied. Just get me to that communication array and I'll shut down their entire network. The communication hub was located deep within Terminus Gate's defensive perimeter, protected by layers of shields and automated defense systems. Davis would have to time his approach perfectly, waiting for the right moment when the main battle created enough confusion to mask his movement. The turning point came when Colonel Tony Wells, leading the ground assault forces, managed to capture one of the orbital platforms. The heavy weapons emplacement, now under Alliance control, began firing into the Imperial formation from behind their own lines. Emperor Krathmos, seeing his defenses collapsing, made a desperate decision. All ships converge on my position. We will make our final stand here. The Imperial fleet began pulling back toward the Emperor's command ship, creating exactly the opening Davis needed. With Imperial attention focused on the main battle, the ESS Shadow slipped through the defensive perimeter undetected. There it is, Brooks said, pointing at the massive quantum communication array that dominated the fortress world's main continent, the hub of Imperial power for the entire galaxy. Davis brought his ship down through the atmosphere, dodging automated defense turrets that couldn't quite lock onto his cloaked vessel. The landing was rough, but they were down and undetected. You've got your 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Doc, Davis said. Make them count. Brooks ran from the ship carrying her quantum disruptor, a device that represented months of work by the Alliance's best scientists. If it worked, the Empire's instant communication across thousands of light years would be severed, leaving their forces isolated and uncoordinated. Above them, in orbit, the battle reached its climax. Captain Stone, her ship badly damaged but still fighting, made the decision that would become legend throughout the galaxy. The ESS Liberty, its shields failing and weapons depleted, made a suicide run directly at the Emperor's command ship. This is Captain Stone to all Alliance ships, she broadcast as her vessel accelerated toward the Eternal Dominion. For Earth, for freedom, for the galaxy. The Liberty's impact created a massive explosion that shattered the Imperial command ship's shields and sent shockwaves through both fleets. The sacrifice created the opening that Captain Parker needed to lead her squadron in a final assault on the Emperor's vessel. At that moment, Dr. Brooks activated her quantum disruptor. The device worked perfectly, sending cascading failures through the Imperial communication network. Across the galaxy, Imperial commanders suddenly found themselves cut off from Central Command, unable to coordinate their forces or receive orders. Emperor Krathmos, seeing his communication systems failing and his flagship under direct assault, made one final desperate attack. The Eternal Dominion, using its last reserves of power, fired everything it had at Morrison's flagship. The ESS Thunderbolt's shields held barely, and Morrison found himself face to face with the Emperor, in what had become a personal duel between two leaders representing completely different views of the galaxy's future. "Your empire is finished," Morrison said as Alliance ships surrounded the crippled Imperial command vessel. "Surrender now and spare the lives of your remaining crews." Emperor Krathmos, his ship dying around him, refused to accept defeat. "The Empire is eternal. We cannot be defeated by primitives and slaves." Those were his last words. The Eternal Dominion exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the surface of Terminus Gate. With their Emperor dead and their communication network destroyed, the remaining Imperial forces surrendered or fled in confusion. The quantum disruptor had worked beyond Brooks' wildest expectations. Across the galaxy, Imperial garrisons found themselves isolated and surrounded by rebellious populations. Without central coordination, the 1,000-year empire collapsed in a matter of days. Captain Davis and Dr. Brooks returned to orbit to find the Alliance fleet victorious but exhausted. The cost had been enormous. Over half their ships were destroyed or damaged, and thousands of brave beings had given their lives for freedom. But they had won. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed invincible just 2 years earlier, was finished. Worlds across the galaxy declared independence, and species that had been enslaved for centuries were finally free. Morrison stood on the bridge of his battered flagship, looking out at the stars that no longer belonged to any empire. Around him, his mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together with the easy cooperation that had become the hallmark of the Alliance. "Sir," Commander Ford reported, "we're receiving surrender messages from Imperial forces throughout the galaxy. Most are requesting terms for joining the Free Worlds Alliance." Morrison nodded, understanding that the real work was just beginning. Building a free galaxy would be harder than conquering an enslaved one. But as he looked at the diverse crew around him, representatives of species that had learned to work together despite their differences, he felt confident about the future. The galaxy was finally free, and it had learned an important lesson. When